Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Wednesday, the 18th of May, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, we're going to get started right away, but you know what? There's huge problems coming down the pike, and then probably later this year that relate to things that the Fed's just making. Honest to goodness, I can't begin to describe, what kind of problems are coming. And the reason why is because it's related. Number one, you have to take a look at the people themselves out there. We've been through like a 40-year credit expansion. And those are what you call good times. Good times, folks. People don't realize they're in good times while they're in good times until the really hard times hit. And they get expectations. And this is why people get upset. They get upset if their expectations aren't met. And believe me, this is going to be not met in a big way. And there's going to be a lot of upset people out there when this thing hits. This thing is going to be worse than anything you've ever experienced in your life. With declining amount of people that are actually working. You already see it. People lose, not so much losing their jobs, but people not working. Basically what happened was when this COVID thing hit, it just tore our world away and changed everything. And it was because of the reaction to it. But, you can take an amoeba, a tiny little microorganism, have it on a petri dish, and if you apply some sort of electric shock to it and stuff, it'll do something called a convulse. There's tiny little cells, and it's the same way with your body, all these millions and billions and billions of tiny little cells in your body. You don't pay any attention to them, like, say, your leg, for instance. You don't pay any attention to it. But if something really hot, say something really hot were to fall on your legs, like a spark from a fire or something, and lands on that tissue is going to convulse, and it's going to send a pain signal to your brain, and suddenly you're aware. Well, that's the way with the system out there. It can go into a sudden convulsion of all the people out there come to a realization suddenly that their very existence is in jeopardy because of what the system is actually doing. It can lead to a convulsion of thought within the system that acts like the amoeba being struck with the electricity or whatever, and this could lead to a seismic change in everything. Maybe I'll go into more detail about this, but I got to get into the charts now, and so we got to open up the charts and take a look at what's going on. First thing here is Russia and Ukraine right now. Peace talks are not happening in any form. They've hardened their stances at one another. And something I've noticed in the last couple of days is Russians have been pulling in a whole big bunch of submarines, and they've been pulling in a whole big bunch of ships, and they're gathering right now. I think they're gathering for a major offensive, possibly. I'm just not exactly sure, but these are according to reports that I've been getting over the internet. And, of course, I'm not going to say that all this is written in stone, because a lot of these reports I get over the internet are, like, not verified or whatever, and it's hard to get everything. In this age of modern news we have now, it's hard to sort through verifiable information. And even if they say it's verifiable information, is it really? I mean, they've got us in a point where a lot of people out there, they don't believe anything they're told anymore. And after a while, they start withdrawing themselves from news or information that they receive because they don't believe any of it anyway. And they just withdraw into their life. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a survival skill, Anyway, Russia and Ukraine peace talks are not happening in any form of stances hardened. We're going to get in there and take a look at the markets, actual markets now. Kind of what I'm expecting is this war could drag out for an awful long time. Seriously. over there, and it's slowly dragging down the entire global financial system with it. 21.46 for silver today. Silver's been holding pretty good, considering what's going on out there right now. It's been holding up above $20. That's really good. That's a good sign, considering what we got going on in the system right now with the Fed tightening over here, and they're not going to stop. So, well, what have they done so far? They've done 3/4 of a percentage point. But they're really going to get into there and start chopping right away. And they've said that they ain't going to stop. They ain't going to back off until get inflation under control. Well, they ain't going to get inflation under control. And they're going to have to keep chopping and chopping until the point where the tree's going to come down. The markets are going to fall. Are going to crash, ultimately, if they continue raising interest rates. Never thought I'd really see this day come, but the Fed is bursting all the bubbles. And they seem very favorable. They say that it's acceptable. I think they use the word pain. Well, they're going to get more pain than they bargained for, because when these markets really finally collapse, how are they going to get them back up again? Do they think any of this stuff through? Anyway, let's take a look at gold today. Oh, that's a historical chart. Sorry. We got to get the live chart. Gold right here, 18.14 today. It's down $1.30, which is nothing much. Cryptocurrencies have been taking an awful beating lately. We're looking at 29,213, so it's under $30,000 for cryptos for Bitcoin. It's been really suffering, but this is a risk-on asset class, and so you guys got to beware that the price can fall an awful lot on a risk-on asset class. In other words, an awful lot of the money is speculator money that's poured into this over a period of time, and that speculator money can pour out the other side just as quick. But ultimately, I think with cryptos is they're going to set up a buying opportunity with what the Fed's doing and everything else. The price is gonna finally hit a rock bottom on this thing, and the turnaround is going to be absolutely spectacular on going the other way. So that same thing where I was telling people out there, when Bitcoin was like $3,500, $3,500 for a whole coin, I was telling people, hey, and then it went all the way up to 68,000, and it made a lot of people rich. That whole thing's setting up to happen again. So I mean, you guys, it's not over. It's not over till the fat lady sings. Anyway, let's take a look now at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is down 470 points on the day. Let me refresh the page. Well, now it's down 646 points on the day, and I can pretty much say that, hey, you know what? This market is not going to go up until the Fed changes policy, and this is what I've said all along. And we've got a lot of these guys out there say, the market's going to go up to infinity, up to infinity. But take a look at this market. Let's try a 5-year chart, And what do we see here? We see the market peaked at 36,327. Made a double peak, And that was all that money that they produced that put it up there. Now they're taking the money away. Well, and I've been telling you guys what this market's going to do, and I've been right on the money. I've been telling you guys that it was going to drop, and it's dropped, and I'm going to tell you guys it's going to drop more until the Fed's everything for this market. Free, cheap, easy money is everything for this market. And you cut off the cheap, free, easy money, and what's going to happen, and that's what they're doing right now. They're in the process of cutting it. And this market's not going to turn around until you get them starting to put some cheap, easy, free money back in the system again. That's what's going to turn around. And me figuring out when they're going to do that is key. Trying to plot it and figure out when they're going to turn around. And you're going to see a quick turnaround on this thing. They're going to go from talking hard and talking big to a quick turnaround, but only when we're going to get the big drop-offs in the market. And it's going to have to be a little bit bigger drop-off that happened at the beginning of the COVID. See what happened at the beginning of the COVID? We went from 29,398 all the way down. Let me find the bottom here, 19,173. So we dropped about 10,000 points. Okay? So it's probably going to take a similar drop to spur them into action again, going by past experience. So right now, we've seen a drop from 36,327 to 31,000 or 31,998, which is where it is right now. Okay? That's not the magnitude of kind of a drop that's going to spur them into action. It's probably going to be more than a 10,000 drop in the market from the peak. So probably lower than 26,000. And we're still over 30,000. So we got a ways to go yet before we're going to see this turnaround in the Fed. Okay, so I've kind of spelled it out for you in this show. If you guys are watching carefully, I've kind of spelled it out for you when I think we're going to have the turnaround. It's probably going to be somewhere between 20 and 25,000 on the Dow. You know, that's when they're going to say, "Hey, you know, we're wrecking everything. We, the Fed, are now officially a wrecking ball of the economy, and inflation is higher right now. We've done our wrecking ball trick. The markets have all fell now. Real estate bubble's starting to pop. Everything's starting to go down the toilet. We've done everything, and inflation's now higher than when we started. When we started, it was what, 7.2%, and now it's like 12.5%? That's what they're going to be saying in a couple months down the road. And that's by their metrics for inflation, for the CPI. The real inflation number's probably double. And so I'm looking ahead and I'm saying, well, probably by the time they're done doing all this to try to stop inflation, it's going to be stronger than it was when they started. But they'll have destroyed the stock market. They will have destroyed all of the housing market. They will have just popped a lot of these bubbles. And this was the wealth effect. What wealth effect are we going to have? And we're going to have a whole bunch of angry people out there. And what's their solution going to be? Oh, let's just make UBI, Universal Basic Income, give it to everybody. Well, what's that going to do to inflation? I mean, that's just going to complete the destruction of the dollar. That's just modern monetary theory on steroids. Let's take a look now at crude oil, $112. And crude oil is probably going to be higher by then. Crude oil will probably be like $150. And nobody out there is going to have any money. This is just a recipe for having people starve. But it's saying, you know, I mean, food. You think food prices are going to come down? They got no food left to bring food prices down with. Move index today, $119. Bonds and rates. We're looking at falling yields today, about 5 basis points. We're looking at a U.S. 10-year at 2.92 and a U.S. 30-year at 3.11. And now the U.S. dollar index at 103.58. They're destroying everything, but they're trapped at the same time. And what we're going to see is, ultimately, I think civil unrest is coming on a massive scale, like nothing we've ever seen before. And that's just going to take things down even faster with that and UBI, Universal Basic Income, to try to quell the unrest. And everything's just going to everything has been in a process of slowly falling apart around the world. And it's just making the people suffer. And these politicians, they're trying to throw eggs at one another, you know, and it's just making the people suffer worse and worse. And what are they trying to achieve? Well, I think that that on one side of the world, they're trying to make the West collapse. It's all a game. Who can collapse first? Who can hold out the longest? You ever seen these shows like uh used to be a show called Big Brother or whatever, and there was also a show called Survivor. They do these challenges. They'd say the last person that steps off of this post, they get them all to stand on a post. And they said the last person that steps off this post wins the money. And they'd be standing there on that post for the longest time. Well, this is what's going on with the world right now between East and West. They're saying that the longest ones that can keep their citizens from going into revolt wins. The first one to go into regime change. And so they're making all the people suffer. And maybe this is the way they wage war now. I don't know, is to inflict pain on the civilians, on the people. Instead of well, it's actually went into a hot war as well, but all this is just like for the people out here, it's just like we're being mashed. It's like somebody dropped us into a blender, for crying out loud. Ultimately, where does it all end? I mean, we're watching our lives go down the toilet. We don't feel free to say what we want anymore. We don't feel free to do what we want anymore. We feel like we're being hemmed in. We feel like we don't have uh, gas prices are going through the roof, so we can't travel anymore unless it costs us a fortune. Our money is running out like poo poo through a tin horn. I mean, it's just, what are we gonna do? This is leading someplace, and it's not pretty what it's leading to. But ultimately, the people are only going to take so much. And what's that point where they all lose it? It's when they start to starve. You know, when they start to go hungry. They all lose it. And that's coming pretty soon. You see what's happening with the food. Anyway, listen, guys. Head on over there. I'll leave a link in the description. Head on over there to my Patreon account. And I know it says $5 to subscribe per month, but it's not. It's not $5. It's $1. It's only $1. I need to get as many people on over there as I can. I'm going to be doing my podcasts over there. And I mean, more so than over here, I can let it rip. Because I'm posting it, and I can let it rip more about what I think about these sons of guns who are messing us up big time. We all just want to live our lives and be left alone to have peace and security in the world, and raise our kids in a peaceful environment and have our wages, and earn money, hard work, and money that comes from that you've earned, not going to let somebody take it away from you. Some politician that comes along and says, well, we got to increase taxes, double taxes this year. They just arbitrarily tell you what they want to do. They're just like, we're going to double taxes this year. And you're like, what? When did that come along? I can't afford that. Do you know fuel prices just doubled? What do you expect me to do? Well, what they expect is they expect you to finally lose it. They know everybody's going to lose it ultimately, but they're trying to, whoever loses, whatever. This is that game I'm telling you about, where they're like, whatever country has their citizens lose it first loses the war. And if they can keep them all in line, keep the people in line, no matter how much misery the people have to go to, they don't care. They just want to win this thing and make themselves world ruler of the world forever and ever. Slavetopia. Ruler of Slavetopia. Like, we don't have an opinion. We don't have a voice. We're the slave horde army. For these, it's, where did these new rulers that they have and these new people come along from? Did Ming the Merciless train them all? Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you. And don't forget Patreon. It's only $1, guys. Anyway, catch you guys in the next show. Bye bye.